Good afternoon, everyone. You okay? My name is Janice Lenke, and I'm so proud and honored to be the 103rd president of the Las Vegas Rotary Club. This month, the Las Vegas Rotary Club is focusing the theme on economic future, which aligns with our speaker series and our ongoing commitment to building a stronger, more resilient community. As Rotarians, we recognize that a vibrant economic future starts with our actions today. I would like to invite Tarby Bryant up to do the invocation.
Please join me in prayer, if you will. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you today with grateful hearts, gathering as Rotarians and friends united in our shared purpose to serve, to uplift, and to make our community and world a better place. Thank you for the gift of friendship and the vision of Rotary, a vision of people from every walk of life coming together to do good, to build bridges of understanding, and to create opportunities when there are none. Lord, we ask your special gift upon our speaker today, Miles Dixon, for the work that he does with the Nevada Grant Labs. We thank you for their commitment to empowering nonprofits, help them to find resources and funding that they use to make a real and lasting change and difference. We are inspired by their dedication to ensure Nevada get a fair share of the support that the worthy causes that's behind them. Bless Miles as he shares our message today. Guide us, protect us, bless the food that we're about to enjoy and the friendships and fellowships and the work ahead of us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
And then next, I'd like to invite Brock Frazier, you guys remember who he is, to do the song.
Obviously, they were desperate. That's why I'm back up here again. I couldn't decide on which song to sing, so we're going to do it a little differently today. Janice and I, based on your clapping level, the decibels, you'll indicate which of the three choices I'm offering, and then we'll go from there. So it'll be God Bless America, the National Anthem, and America the Beautiful. So let's start with God Bless America. Where's my other decibel counter? Janice, are you paying attention? Okay. The National Anthem and America the Beautiful. Well,
I came up just in time.
the National Anthem won, but that's not the one I want. So we're going to do America the Beautiful, okay? You ready? Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed her grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
And then for pledge and Sergeant of Arms, I have Sean Sennett, but I have your microphone. You were so busy entertaining your guest. There you go.
All right. Right hand over your heart, just like in school, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I might have confused everyone because this month of September has been innovation. I was just trying to set the tone for next month's theme, which is economic future. So I'd like to go ahead and do the thank yous. Lynn Ing and Bob Warner for setup. Greeters were Martha Garcia, and I thought it was Elliot Harris, but I also saw a couple other people up there. We also have ticket sales, Bob Pizer and Randy Brody. Shh, please. Photographer Tina Bishop. Scribe Elliot Harris. AV team is Stu Lipoff and Elliot Harris. Teardown Dr. Michael Williams. Have I seen him today? Okay, right there in front of me. And Susan Ziobra. We do not have any international guests. Do we have any visiting Rotarians? Right here. Are you Elena? Oh, sorry. I know we were expecting someone from out of state. Sean's coming over to you.
Hi, I'm Elena, and I'm from Nashua, New Hampshire.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Sean's bringing a flag over for an exchange with you. Thank you for being here. Elena, your club you said is called?
Rotary of Nashua. Oh, Rotary Club of Nashua.
Okay, in New Hampshire you said, right? Yeah. Welcome. Do we have guest of Rotarians? Ginger does. Past President Ginger.
My guest today is my wonderful husband, Dan.
Welcome, Dan. And then Russ, Past President Russ Swain.
Good afternoon, everybody. Past President Russ Swain here. Today, I have a guest who I work with. I want you to all meet Stockton Ballantyne. Stockton joined Alara Group. He's a pilot and an aviation insurance expert. So let's welcome him to our lunch.
Welcome. Any other guests or Rotarians?
Yes. I know he's going to hate me for doing this, but whatever.
Your friend.
I've got my friend and colleague, Brett Valentine, with me today. He's our construction manager at Sting Alarm.
Welcome. Anyone else? So we're going to move on to guest of our club. Larry, I think, has some.
We have Laura Henkel with us, who is attending, I believe, for the second time, and is looking forward to seeing us again.
Thank you. Welcome back. Any other guest of our club? Okay, we're going to go over to the head table and say hello and welcome. We have our speaker, which you'll hear more about him shortly, Miles Dixon. We have Rita Burton. We have past President Tom Crow. We have Elliot Fajardo, and I think you were greeting today as well. Thank you for stepping in. And then we have Dr. Nikki Brunetti. So thank you guys for joining me at the head table. We have so many announcements. I'm going to try not to make you run, but I better put my glasses on. Hold on. Why don't you just start at this table right here with past President Karen Wisenhut.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. Well, the first announcement is, you'll see up on the screen, the Cigar Fellowship event at Tom and Jane Krob House is September 25th at 6 p.m. Now this, for those of you that have signed up and are going, this is very important. Watch for an email tomorrow for the gate code. It's only a gate code for 7 days, so please, watch your email, and if you have any problems, let Tom Krob know. It's a potluck dinner, and bring your own beverages, favorite beverages. Cigar smokers, bring 3 cigars, 1 for yourself, 1 to share, and 1 for the troops. So we welcome smokers and non-smokers alike to join us for this event.
Thank you.
Next is the golf putting tournament, fast approaching. We're doing great on sponsorships. We have 2 left, 2 table sponsorships. Enjoy the challenge against the past president, the president-elect, the 25 Club. Anyway, we would love to have some more challenges on the table. We have 2 of those left and 3 more whole sponsors. So if you're interested in that, by all means, let me know and sign up in the Green Book. And last but not least, the 25 Club. This is the golf putting tournament is your monthly meeting. So we encourage you to come to the putting tournament. We need some volunteers yet, so please sign up in the Green Book so that we can finalize the details to the country club. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, why don't you go ahead over here to Antoinette?
Okay, so the Halloween party to support the Salvation Army is going to be October 24th at 6 p.m. I'll be hosting it at my home. So I don't know if everybody remembers the last Halloween party that we did for the Salvation Army canned food drive, but it was a ton of fun and I'd love to see you all there. We are looking for volunteers for tear down. Obviously, we need to have people that are willing to judge our costumes, and maybe if we could get a DJ that I know that could help us out. He was looking down, he was trying to avoid me. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. It is a potluck. It does support the canned food drive. We would really like to raise some great funds. It's child friendly, family friendly. Bring whomever you'd like. The suggested donation is $20 towards the canned food drive.
Thank you.
That's it.
Let's take, Sean, if you could take it over here to past President Tony Kern.
You mean Frida, right?
Yeah, Frida.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, a recap of our SOAR ceremony, the Safety Officer Award recognition that was held on Monday. It was probably the most fun we've had in quite some time. There was a lot of levity between the fire department and the police department, who responded faster and first. There were 22 departments that were actually represented, which is the largest number. It was, for this time only, it was at the Government Center. We had, there were 3 past district governors, 3 mayors, a number of other dignitaries, and we had 10 of our members attending. So it was great, and it was the maiden voyage for Major Kyle Smith. He did his first official Rotary Club duty by our invocation, and he did us all proud. So that was great. If you didn't make it, try next year. It's worthwhile to read and hear about all the great things these departments do. There are some programs up at the front so that you can take a look at those. Also, next up is a volunteer opportunity. Once again, it's Green Our Planet's Fall Student Farmers Market. It is on Thursday, October 16th. We do the setup, and it will be a matter of putting tablecloths on and little other things. We have other clubs that are joining us, so anyone who is interested, it would be from about 6:45 until 9 o'clock, because it opens officially at 9:30, which means we have to have everything set up by 9. And so even though it is on a Thursday, you will have time to shop and get back here for our meeting, which will be Assistant Sheriff Dory Corin, who is going to be amazing. So sign up, participate, it's a lot of fun. And if you work, just ask if you can come in a little late. Thank you.
And if you can go ahead and hand the microphone actually to past President Steve Linder.
Where are you going, bud?
Thank you, President Janice. Past President Steve Linder here. Going down here to Major Kyle Smith. This weekend is our Salvation Army. We're doing the service for lunch at the Salvation Army. And I'm going to have Major Smith tell us about how we get in there. But it's at 1 o'clock, 35 West Owens. We'll be serving lunch. We have 25 slots available. I think we still have about 6 or 7 places open. So if you want to sign up in the Green Book. And we'll see you there on Saturday, this coming Saturday, the 20th at 1 o'clock. And Major Kyle Smith, tell us about getting into the facility.
It's like the Hotel California. No, not really. No, just joking. There's a gate code. It's 03. I think it's 03. It says call. It's right on the as you come in. As you drive past the Salvation Army, depending which way you're coming, and you just push that, and someone will answer, and they'll let you in. If there's any issues, I will be standing there personally to make sure you get in. Either way, we will let you in and we'll let you out. And once you get in, you can park wherever you can find a parking place. But there's a chapel in the middle. It's sort of a browny color, reddy brown. There's a big long area down there that's usually really easy to park, and then just follow the signs that say to where to volunteer, which is the main area. And any questions, I will be roaming around. So there we go.
Thank you. Steve, if you can pass that off to Sean, he's going to stay over here. He's going to go to Deb Howard.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is time for our Rotary Park cleanup. Rotary Park is over at 901 Hinson, and it is our namesake park. This is a very unique opportunity because it is a multi-club community service project. So especially to the 25 club members, this gives you a wonderful opportunity to get out there and meet a lot of Rotarians from a lot of our neighborhood Rotary clubs. It is going to be at 8 a.m. and there's going to be coffee and donuts, and then bring something for everyone to share. Each club kind of brings their own little dishes and meals, and then we have a wonderful time of fellowship after the park is all clean. So I look forward to seeing you there. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, crispy, fresh air. Come out and help us clean the park. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Sean, if we could bring the microphone back over here to Jerry Sennis about highway cleanup.
Good afternoon. October 4th, right around the corner. It'll be a beautiful day, I'm sure, and it's nice for having the community service to keep the highways clean. I am looking forward to seeing so many of you back at my house afterwards. We always enjoy brunch together. October 4th, 9 o'clock. Hope to see you then. Thank you.
Thank you. And then to Gwen Hall.
Thank you. We're getting ready for Halloween candy. The Green Book page is not in there until around the 1st of October. We're asking cash this year. No candy brought in because we had some losses last year, and our CEO of candy is asking for, only wants bags that have the numbers on them. So that's our request this year.
Okay.
We have 3,500 students, so give generously.
Thank you. Did you say the cutoff date? I mean, is it right up till what date for everybody to donate?
Mid to late October. All the parties are right at the end of the month.
Yep.
So you have all through, pretty much all through October to contribute.
Okay, thank you. Did I miss anybody for announcements? Okay, so we have some really incredible presentations today. However, Sean, could you take the microphone back over there? See, I'm pointing at Dan. Hey, Dan, why don't you stand up?
Mr. Dan Adamson?
Yeah, Dan Adamson. I know, I almost forgot his last name. Could you stand up?
Luckily, I didn't.
Yeah, he looked familiar. I almost greeted him as a new member. I got so confused. So, Dan, I was talking to Sean, and we were trying to go back and see when's the last time we saw you. And we know that you missed the entire month of August. We know you're very busy. But I was just thinking, 31 days times, we'll go easy, like $10 a day for the month, $310 is your fine. That's
Okay.
That's pretty mild.
Okay.
Okay, it's good to see you.
Likewise.
Okay, so I am really excited. I know entrees just got served, but you know how it goes. I'm so excited to invite Dr. Nikki Brunetti up.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. We have an exciting day today. There are so many presentations. Okay. Yeah, that's just waking you up. So I would like to call up to begin with, Larry Goldstein. Goldstein, sorry, Goldstein. Larry Cohn. Are you here? I saw you somewhere. There you are. The two Larrys. Just make sure we don't get you mixed up with your words, okay? Greg, Stu, and Gwen. Yeah, totally, right? Right? It was. Gwen is coming. This is just the beginning. This is only to start with. What do we do? Stand there. Just stand there. You'll find out.
Please break up these men. Can you get in the middle?
Yeah, Gwen, get in the middle of the guys. There you go. They will be your entourage. All right. It is my honor to present multiple Paul Harris Fellow Awards today. The presentation of Paul Harris Fellow Recognition Awards is the Rotary Foundation's way of expressing its appreciation for a substantial contribution to its humanitarian and educational programs. And just to remind you, or for those of you who are new, our guests, it is named for Rotary's founder, a Chicago lawyer who started Rotary with 3 business associates. Gosh, and look what it's turned into, millions of members in 1905. Today, a world of peace and goodwill comes closer to reality as Larry Goldstein, Larry Cohn, Greg, Stu, and Gwen are honored for their contributions. Their gifts in multiples of $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation's educational and humanitarian programs are a commitment to peace and to a better life for people all around the world. All of you being honored today are in the remarkable company of persons throughout the world and right here in this room, who are recognized for their devotion to the ideal of goodwill, peace, and understanding, a goal of Rotarians the world over, and one that all of you so clearly share. As such, it gives me great pleasure to present to Larry Goldstein his first Paul Harris Award. Now to the other Larry, Larry Cohn, his very first Paul Harris Award and certificate. I'll go a little bit out of order. And well, I'm not. Greg. To Greg, this is his Paul Harris +2 award. Then we have Stu with his +4 award. And to the queen in the middle, Gwen, this is her +5 Paul Harris Award.
Amazing. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
Please help me congratulate and honor all of our Paul Harris awardees today. Okay.
All right, well done.
Thank you, guys. Okay, now we're not done yet. As we've said many times in this club, we are truly the best Rotary Club in the universe. And you guys, we really are. Another example of this dedication is a very special award today, a major donor level 1 award for Ginger and her husband, Dan. Please come up, you two. Oh, that's done. Thank you, you two. Yeah.
Let you know you're alive.
You guys can come over. As many of you have heard me explain before, there are several levels of giving. The Paul Harris Award that we just gave, multiples of $1,000. But when you get to the $10,000 to $24,999 giving level, it places you among the distinguished ranks of major donors to the Rotary Foundation, which is now what Ginger and her husband Dan have achieved. To honor Ginger and Dan for their extraordinary giving, I'd like to read part of a poem written in 2024 by Thomas Korsgaard from the Our House Marcellus Rotary Club, and the poem is called Melody of Hope. It's not only it's special to honor you guys, but it is also very relevant in today's world. Rotary's Symphony of Change. In the whispers of the wind, a melody of hope. A song of Rotary, a symphony to cope. In the heart of darkness, in the eye of storm, lies a gentle promise, a world to transform. Rotary creates hope in the world, they say. A beacon in the night, a light in the fray. For the midst of war in Gaza's tear-stained land, in Ukraine's shattered streets, they extend a hand. Stress and mental shadows, a growing silent fight, yet in each caring gesture, a spark of guiding light. Children, our future, in despair's tight grip, find in Rotary's mission a steadier ship. Economic aid, a lifeline for many in need, a testament to the power of a selfless deed. While the climate rages from drought to floods roar, Rotary stands firm like a steadfast shore. The poem goes on, but Ginger and Dan, you are an example of such a lifeline, and this club is a testament of power to the selfless deeds. Rotarians, if you will stand with me. Ginger and Dan, this is really heavy. This is a gift that is provided when you reach major donor level 1 status. And this entire club thanks you tremendously for your great generosity.
Thank you, Dr. Brunetti. We have some time for fellowship. However, first, it's that time, surprise and delight. So, our friends at Golden Nugget Hotel wanted to get in on the action. I am literally getting calls asking me what this surprise and delight and why I haven't asked certain establishments to contribute. It's crazy. They have this really cool, I know we all have a ton of tumblers, but this one, I really like it. And there's also a gold coin with the 4-way test in here. So, who has struck gold in a copy of the wheel? Hope you like it. All right, with that, I think we have some time for some fellowship, so enjoy. Did I miss anything? I'm like thinking I missed something.
Oh, no, just picture.
Okay.
And drawings, don't forget the
Oh,
drawings.
yeah, no, I won't.
Yeah, I know you always do that.
Okay, it's time to do the raffle. Okay. The ticket, oh, by the way, sorry, the wheel is incorrect. You don't get 5,000, half of 5,000. It starts back over with Carolyn Sparks winning last week, and she donated. We're waiting to find out what she's donating the money back to within the foundation, so that's fantastic. So we're starting back at 500. The ticket is 3229035. Past President Steve Linder. I was getting ready to draw and have Sean get another one. Get up here. Your chances are slim. Yeah. Sure. Let's put it over here.
1 in 52. Right? Right? Okay.
Woo! They're slippery. These are new. Jack of Diamonds. Here you go.
I'm going to donate my winnings back to the club.
Aw, thanks for donating the $10 back. We're all about giving. Okay, Lowry's Bucks are 322-9067. $322-9067. Wake up, people. Oh. Past President Jim Cole.
I didn't have my cheaters. I didn't. Ginger, guess
And I'm
who's read
wearing
it for
mine
me?
and they no longer work. Here you go. Congratulations. Okay, and with that, I would like to invite Rita Burton to come up and introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Miles Dixon, CEO and founder of Nevada Grant Lab. I had the opportunity to hear Miles speak at a Nevada State Bank nonprofit finance conference. I guess it was a couple months ago that Rosalie invited me to. Miles's presentation was not only enlightening, but it was also a wake-up call about the evolving federal funding landscape and its impact on Nevada. Miles brings expertise and a clear-eyed view of the challenges ahead. Please join me in welcoming Miles Dixon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me this afternoon. It's a real pleasure to be here, especially in a room full of so many other people who care about our community and our region. So thank you, thank you. Before I get going, I want to tell you two things. First of all, you should be really proud of your Speakers Bureau. I don't always respond to emails quickly, and I have to tell you, Tony and Rosalie were very persistent. And so I really appreciate the follow-up in making sure that I got here and I was able to spend an afternoon with you all. The second thing I want to say, which is a little bit more on topic of my presentation, is that over the next 20 or so minutes, I'm going to talk about the federal government. And I'm going to talk about policy, and I'm going to talk about what's happening in DC and what I think it may mean for our community. And I just want to take a moment to emphasize, my goal is not to be partisan. I know that all of us in this room are entitled to our own perspectives. I'm not here to try to convince you of one perspective or another. And at the end of the day, I think that what I'm trying to do and what we're trying to do as an organization is recognize that as things change in DC and change around our country, whether you like the change or whether you don't like the change, it has implications for how our community operates. And so that's really my focus. So I just wanted to quickly acknowledge, going to talk about politics to some extent, and I know that can be a little difficult, so bear with me. As Rita mentioned, I want to talk about the flow of federal funding, and this isn't something that I think is a surprise to anybody who reads a newspaper or watches or listens to news. There are a lot of changes happening in Washington, D.C. right now, and among those changes, it is what will be funded on a moving forward basis in this country and what won't be funded, at least by the federal government. And that, I think, has really big and sweeping implications for our community and communities all around this country. And again, you may like these changes, you may dislike these changes, but I think it's a little hard to hear a headline about a federal budget and know, so what's that mean in my community? And what's that mean for the nonprofit or the community cause I care about? And so I'm hoping to try to answer a little bit about that. I want to start by telling you a little bit about the place I work. It's an organization called Nevada Grant Lab. It's a nonprofit. It started about 5.5 years ago, and it really started for two reasons. was historically here in Nevada, we have failed to get our fair share of federal funding. And so tomorrow's Friday. I don't know if anyone else gets paid tomorrow. I get paid. And if you remember your most recent paycheck, there's a line on it. It's federal income tax, right? And so your income tax helps fund grants to local governments, institutions of higher education, nonprofits, et cetera, all around the country. So every single paycheck, you are contributing to a federal system. Here in Nevada, historically, we have failed to get our fair share of federal funding back. What that means is that we as a state, we as taxpayers, our employees, our neighbors, our constituents, et cetera, all are essentially helping fund education, healthcare, infrastructure, economic development, the things that most of us think are a good thing to have in a community, in virtually every community but your own, right? So what happens is you pay into a system, and here in Nevada, we get the 55th lowest in healthcare, for example, rate of return. So we actually trail most of the territories in this country. And so when you think about what that means as a taxpayer, it's not great. What it also means is if you're someone who cares about access to healthcare, access to education, it also means we just have less money to support those causes. And so as an organization, we started about 5.5 years ago to try to help nonprofits, local governments, state agencies, and ultimately taxpayers, you all, see the rate of return that we think is needed in our region. So we do that through a series of different programs. We offer grant services, we offer a lot of training, everything from financial management to program design to compliance. We do technical assistance work, and we do a lot of data and policy work. And that's part of what I'm here today, and I often talk at conferences about, is to help people understand what's happening here. We are primarily funded by charity. The two largest foundations in the state help fund our work. They fund it because their same organizations, the nonprofits that they support, this directly impacts. So we play this interesting role in the nonprofit ecosystem or in our community, which is trying to help other nonprofits build the skills and the capabilities they need to not just secure more resources in the form of federal grants, but actually try to achieve maximum impact and efficiency in doing that. So that's what we do. We're a team of 10 people. We're based here in Las Vegas. And I think what I want to try to dive into next is, like I said, you're seeing in the headlines, all these changes in Washington, D.C. And I think it's important to understand some of those changes and how they happen. When I think about the changes that are happening in D.C., at least when it comes to federal funding, they're really coming through a few different levers, a few different pathways. One of those pathways is executive orders. So it doesn't go too often in this White House without issuing executive orders. This White House has far more executive orders than past White Houses, and many of them tend to focus on issues of policy. Is a tremendous amount of changes through an executive order process. And so what that means is there also has to be a trade-off in Congress or rulings in courts to do that. And I'm going to dive in a little bit more on that. What we also see is a significant change in the actual flow of grants. So quick primer, grants are not free money. Grants are funded by taxpayers. They are the result often, at least at the federal level, of an open, competitive process to award dollars. And when an organization receives a grant, they're effectively entering a contract. Those contracts, I can tell you, are not short. It is a federal government contract. They're pretty extensive. They include things like scope of work and services and fee structures, et cetera. So the actual flow of grants is starting to change quickly. We also know that there's a ton of change in federal workforce. Again, way more data in a few slides on that. And finally, what we're starting to see really in the last 3 to 4 months is congressional action. So these 4 levers together add up to a really significant change in the flow of federal dollars to nonprofits, local governments, education authorities, et cetera, all around the country. Diving in a little bit, executive orders. As I mentioned, what we're seeing is a pretty unprecedented flow of this. Now, there's a whole important conversation to have about the role of executive orders. Again, regardless of how anybody feels about, we want to see more activity by Congress or more activity by the courts, at the end of the day, it is the White House's prerogative to issue executive orders. What happens as a result of those are folks can challenge them in court. Ultimately, we're going to look for some sort of congressional action. But in the meantime, the executive order comes out from the White House. I think one of the most significant ones happened in February, and it was an executive order to pause all federal grant funding in the country. And what that means is organizations, nonprofits, they may be delivering mental health services. The moment that grant gets paused, what it means is that that organization can no longer be reimbursed for the work they're doing. Almost all federal grants, by the way, work on a reimbursement basis. So your nonprofit is delivering a service, and then somewhere between 30 and 60 days later, if the system's working well at that period, they'll actually get reimbursed. So a full stop on all federal payments essentially locks everybody in place. Now, that order was ultimately overturned within about 36 hours. What is continued is a series of policy directives, issues around gender and immigration, as well as the census itself. Who is counted? How are they counted? Who deserves or doesn't deserve services, et cetera. We've also seen a ton of issue-specific executive orders. So housing is one of the most, I think, critical changes, as well as education. We're seeing giant sweeping changes out of this administration in terms of how homeless services or housing services should be funded, who's entitled to reimbursements, who's eligible as a beneficiary, et cetera. We also see executive orders for like the entire Department of Education, for example, as well as some other agencies to be dismantled. So all of these have these impacts of kind of a slowing, a chilling, a pausing effect. Those are, of course, the intended impacts for the most part, right? This isn't an unintended consequence. And again, doesn't matter how any of us feel about it, it's just the reality. You issue an executive order, folks get rightfully anxious, nervous, sometimes confused, and work stops. So we see this flow of executive orders that are increasingly being challenged in court, sometimes successfully, and I say successfully on behalf of the plaintiffs in those cases, sometimes unsuccessfully, just depends on how you look at it. What also is happening is the actual grant, that contract that an organization is receiving, for example, like a nonprofit, what happens is you end up with an award termination. So it means that on January 1st, your organization, and think of this, I know many of you are in the business space, you have a contract, you have a task order, you have a work order, right? So you're standing in hand with an executable, reliable, or an executed reliable contract. You go and start carrying out those services. So if you get a stop order, right, that doesn't necessarily mean you haven't incurred any costs in many cases. What it means is you're in this holding pattern now, right? And so what we see is many, many award terminations, pauses, as well as actual terminations. Those cancellations sometimes are specific to that grant. So the grant that this organization received is being terminated, or come up a step and all grants in the same issue area are being terminated. So what it has is, again, this like economic, think of it as a cash flow issue. What it means is nonprofits who are the recipients of these grants, when suddenly they get either a stop order or a contract terminated, they end up in a place of trying to figure out, do we keep doing this work and find another source of funding, philanthropy, et cetera, or do we just stop doing the work? Even if the choice is to stop doing the work, as you all probably know from business, just because you stop doing the work, I mean, right, you price typically for the entirety of the contract, so you may be hiring staff. If ultimately you hire staff, you sink a lot of costs, but you only are entitled to half of the reimbursement, it starts to create a business problem. And because it is the federal government, I gotta tell you, it's really hard to win in courts because most government contracts really are tilted towards significant, whether it's local, state, or federal government, it is tilted towards the government. So it is really hard to argue that you had an unlawful termination. Now, plenty of people are doing it. That's good for them, but it ultimately creates this level of uncertainty that gets really difficult. And I think that even in the cases where a contract is paused, it's that delay that is really challenging for so many nonprofits, because nonprofits often don't have things like endowments. They don't have like strong liquidity positions. The vast majority of nonprofits here in our region have less than 90 days of operating cash on hand. And so if you get a pause, and it happens in enough of your funding sources, it ultimately gets to this place where you just don't have enough money to pay this month's roll, whether that's rent or whether that's pay. And so it really is creating this challenge for nonprofits. One of the other things that's happening at the federal level is a workforce reduction. What we see out of this administration so far is an intent, this isn't a secret, the administration talks about it often, is an intent to reduce the federal workforce. What that is adding up to is, so far in the last 9 months, 154,000 federal employees have left the workforce. When you have fewer people, just like in all of our organizations, even if you should have fewer people, as they exit, it starts to leave imbalance in your organization, right? So even if you look at it and say, well, we need a 10% workforce reduction or 20% workforce reduction, et cetera, even if that is the strategy, as it happens, it causes disruption. What we also see are, as a result of essentially buyout offers, we saw a lot of this change happen all in 30 and 45-day chunks. So folks who had maybe been in a position for whether it's 3 years or 30 years who are administering a federal grant, right? I was your grant administrator. I know who you are. You send me your reimbursements. I understand your work. I understand the budget you're working with and the contract you've had for 5 years. If I'm no longer sitting in that seat and you're dealing with a brand new person, it is not going to move as quickly. And so the workforce reduction is also creating this significant drag for the flow of funding. Finally, there's congressional action. Lots of folks in nonprofits and outside of nonprofits pensively were waiting as different executive orders came out that people would challenge these things in court. And not to do a constitutional law, and I'm sure there's lots of lawyers here, conversation, ultimately Congress has the power of the purse. And so there is this outstanding question of, okay, can the White House really just freeze all federal money without congressional approval? Can we win in court? So here's what's happened. Ultimately, as Congress has moved over the last 6 months to approve many of these actions, like it or not. That's what Congress is approving, right? And so we now have this like lingering constitutional law issue largely resolved because Congress has given the White House authority to do all of this. And so the uncertainty of the first 6 or 8 months of the administration for so many nonprofits has now given way to some level of clarity, not that many of them wanted, but some level of clarity that there is no waiting for the other shoe to drop. There is no waiting for a court injunction. There is no waiting for Congress to exercise some sort of power or overrule the White House. We now largely have those answers, which is the funding is going to reduce significantly. These are just 3 different packages over the last 6 months that have passed, and I think all demonstrate the point that there is will in Congress to move in this direction. What we also know is that both Congress as well as the White House has indicated an objective, not again shyly, right? This is not an administration that's very shy in its positions. They've been really clear. The objective is to reduce federal spending to the lowest level in modern history. That is the White House's objective. That is also Congress's objective. You can look at blueprints. It's not debatable necessarily. Now, again, people may disagree with it. They may not like it, but that is the direction of domestic spending in this country right now. So that's all come into focus for the last 6 months. And I think that my goal here is not necessarily to talk about federal policy, even though that's the walk-up. The real point is, why do you care? Why should you care? Why should I care? Why should our neighbors care? It's that really for the last 100 years almost, since FDR and his Great New Deal, federal funding has increasingly played the bedrock of funding services in this country, whether it was arts and affordable housing or workforce development and virtually everything in between. The single largest funding source for nonprofits in this country is program service income that often includes federal grants and contracts, immediately followed by federal grants. So when you think about like an affordable housing crisis in this region, or I know you're talking about economic development next month, the vast majority of dollars that fund things like affordable housing, basic services, healthcare, are federal dollars. And so as that spigot turns down, nonprofits and all of us are going to start feeling that. To try to put a finer point on that, I think folks often make assumptions about who's getting federal money and who's not. Is it giant nonprofits that are $10 and $50 million a year budgets? Is it these tiny organizations, et cetera? Is it this issue? Is it that issue? I know it may be a little hard to read on this screen. Oh, sorry, 2 slides behind. Here we go. I know it may be a little hard to read on the screen, so let me give you the headline. There are about 675 operating nonprofits in Nevada. When I say operating, I'm referring to nonprofits that have $1 of expense and 1 employee. So it's a pretty low bar. 675 of them. 503 of them receive federal dollars. They total about $1.25 billion in investment. And when you start to look at what that means, it's not just healthcare. It's not just human services, though they are the largest. It is everything from education to the arts, to religion, faith-based community service organizations, and so on. It is $1.25 billion, which adds up to about a third of all revenue for nonprofits in Nevada. Now, I don't think any of us expect, I'll speak for myself, I don't expect 100% reduction in federal grants. But even if we get to the point where we see 20, which is about the level of reduction we saw in the Reagan administration, but if you get 20%, if you get 30%, what we're talking about is a level of funding reduction that there is no replacement for in this region, and there is no replacement for in this state. Because Nevada has this very unique kind of anomaly of a tax structure. We are one of the states that receives the lowest level of federal funding, but we are one of the states that rely the most on federal funding. And it is because we have a very, very skinny state budget. And I know that folks often think, oh, government, government, government. I understand. I feel that way too. I worked in it. I also can just tell you, Nevada has an incredibly small state government. 42% of Nevada's budget is funded by federal government. So 42% of our state's government is actually funded by the federal government. So as the federal government turns that spigot down, Nevada's budget shrinks, local government's budget shrink, and ultimately nonprofits' budget shrink. Here's another way to look at this cut. So we know that it covers lots of different service areas, but what it also covers is tons of different organizations. I think folks often picture federal grantees as these giant multinational corporations, these big, big, big nonprofits, the names you know. Yes, they're in there. But actually, the majority of them in Nevada are relatively small organizations with budgets of between $1 million and $5 million a year. So these are often the sorts of organizations that perhaps you're giving to. I just saw a list of some of the recent gifts you made, and I can tell you one of them is absolutely on this chart, and the change in federal funding is going to significantly impact their operation. So it's this pretty pervasive issue that we ultimately are going to see unfold here in Nevada. And I think one of the biggest reasons to think about this is because Nevadans rely on nonprofits every single day. And not just those that are directly getting services, right? If we care about something like economic development, we know, and I know that's next month for you, we know one of the biggest challenges in economic development in this region is access to affordable housing and workforce. So if we significantly reduce the investment in housing creation, affordable housing creation especially, and workforce development, whether that's through higher education or traditional workforce development programs like through Workforce Connections and other public agencies, what we end up having is this like ripple effect in our community and our economy, which ultimately means folks who need those services have less access. I think the really painful reality is that Nevada's nonprofit sector was already too small. So when we look at our nonprofit sector, like I said, there's about 675. When we look at regional nonprofits all around the country, or regions like ours, so New Orleans, Orlando, San Antonio, so places that have similar economic makeup, similar demographic makeup, one state that doesn't have a state income tax, one state that has a legislature that meets every other year. These are usually, by the way, the list of reasons why we don't have nice things in this state, because we don't have state income tax, our legislature only meets every other year, and we have a hospitality-driven economy. Those states actually are spending about 5 times more in their nonprofit sector than we are. So we're spending 20 cents on the dollar in our nonprofit sector right now in this region, whereas our comparable regions around the country are spending 5 times what we spent. So this whole system is candidly barely eking it out as it is. I would argue that nonprofits in this region are delivering more value than what money is giving them to do. And so if we turn that resource level down, the likely conclusion is that access to services will go down. I think one of the important things to recognize is that while we have, and I think there is genuinely a need for a really important conversation about what we expect from nonprofits, how effective they are, what more they may need, what more we may expect from them. What we also have to recognize is that not offering mental health services to kids doesn't mean those kids don't need mental health services. So simply by reducing the amount of resources into the system does not actually reduce the need for the system. And I think that sometimes in my conversations, whether it's donors or policymakers, there's sometimes this assumption of like, well, we just need to get more people off the system. I agree with that. That is a strategy conversation. That is not an economics conversation. What that really means though is like, if you don't give a kid a meal, they're still hungry. And so as a community, I think that brings me to my final points around innovation is we have choices to make in this region, just like regions all around the country, but I would argue they're a little bit more significant and acute here. If we want to continue to see service levels of what they've been, we're going to have to figure out a new way to fund that. Nonprofits will also need to have to continue to think about how to deliver that more effectively, right? This is all happening against the already difficult kind of level of economic uncertainty in our country, inflation, as well as the drag that's being created by the reduction of emergency aid that's all in the process of expiring. You know, when we build a system, regardless of how flawed it is and regardless of whether everybody agreed with it or not, the thing that exists in our country right now has been 100 years in the making. That bedrock source of funding that pays for all of these things was not something invented in the last 4 years, let alone the last 40 years. It is the accumulation of nearly 100 years of domestic policy. So if we pull that carpet really quickly back, as is happening today, that will have implications. It will have implications for every community around the country. And ultimately, I think that brings us to this question of like, just because we're reducing access to resources, because we're reducing the flow of dollars to organizations, it doesn't necessarily mean the need they're trying to address or the opportunity they're trying to accelerate goes away. And so I think in our work every day at Grant Lab and what we're asking policymakers, funders, business leaders, volunteers, neighbors to start thinking about is what is it that the future of this community, your community, you want it to look like? Because the way that we've built it over the last 100 years in this country, and especially I would argue here in Nevada, where we have such a small state budget, is incredibly reliant on federal dollars. So as that landscape shifts at a speed and a significance that we have never seen in this country, we will be pressed to come up with answers around how that kid is going to get food or going to have to get mental health services. That need is not going to suddenly go away, even if the resources to help fund it will. I know that I'm probably at about time, and so there may be lots of questions. Great, there are probably a lot of questions. I'd also love to hear if you have feedback or any thoughts on what's happening. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh. Take the microphone. Can someone be my Sergeant Arms? Thank you so much. There you go.
Miles, in other states, there's something called a lottery. And in Nevada, we're missing an opportunity for funding education. I came from Georgia, and Georgia uses its revenues from the lottery to fund education. So I wonder why, what's the problem here?
So I'll leave it to my friends in the gaming industry to make their defense, but I will tell you, the idea of a lottery has come up many, many times in Nevada, including the most recent legislative session. The idea of lottery revenue is often looked to, whether it's to fund education or fund fill in the blank. The reality is Nevada doesn't charge a lot of taxes, right? We don't have personal income tax. We've tried to balance that by having lots of fees, things like that. I don't think there's a great answer for you of like, do you do a lottery tax? I'll tell you my view is that Nevada needs to, if it wants to increase its revenue, it should look at it in a more holistic way. I don't think a lottery tax, at least as I've seen the numbers, are going to solve a problem. I also do want to point out that our gaming and hospitality industry is the single largest taxpayer in the state. They are contributing an extraordinary amount to help the state stay afloat. Now, there's plenty they get in return. But when you look at the actual rate of taxation in that industry, it's significant. They're also giving philanthropically. They're also the largest employers. So I think it's okay to have a conversation about what are expectations of gaming. I would flag that there are other industries to be looking at. And most importantly, I think that what many of us, regardless of our party, agree with, is that the real way to generate income in this state should be through job creation. And we've historically not done the level of economic development and diversification that we need to. And I know we have great speakers next month on that. I would argue the way we get out of this is to grow out of it.
So, Miles, thanks for being here and for alerting to this storm clouds on the horizon. One of the goals of the administration that I've heard expressed with respect to education, I guess it goes elsewhere, is decentralization, to try and get some of the decisions about funding away from Washington or agencies and perhaps push them down to the state. So are we maybe moving to some sort of future where the federal government may just be providing block grants to the states, and then we'll have to go to the state agencies to get that money? Do you see that on the horizon?
Stu, I feel like you've been reading up on this issue. Yes, I think ultimately what is likely to happen, as long as the administration has its way, is that more and more program administration responsibility as well as funding will move down to local and state government levels. On one hand, I want to make the argument that I think that's really great. I think that there is a tremendous need for local communities and policymakers to have more voice in how federal funding works, and frankly, how it's not working right now. So I think there's a really positive part of that. I think the reality of the other side of that is that if the federal government, for example, SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, food stamps historically, gets moved from the United States Department of Health and Human Services down to the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services, what's going to happen is a few things. One, it's going to come with what's called a match funding requirement. So right now, the federal government pays 100% of the costs of SNAP in Nevada. It's about $1 billion a year. If that comes with a 10% match requirement, it means Nevada has to come up with $100 million a year to maintain that service level. What they also are going to have to do is staff it. And what I can tell you as someone who has worked in and around government in this state for quite some time, the prospect of doubling or tripling our staff as well as the IT infrastructure needed really terrifies me. And I think it's going to take a level of forward-looking and kind of business investment that we haven't historically seen. So yes, I think it's moving towards state government, and I think that's going to be particularly challenging in a state like Nevada. Janice told me this is her subtle signal.
This is just subtle. Okay. We have another question right here.
Yeah, Miles, thank you very much. Just you said you wanted a feeling of what's happening, at least for me. I think most people have always believed that the one thing you don't touch is services for the poor and the needy and grants to charities that do that. And that's the way I've always felt, and I see the return on investment we get here from our dozens of charities that we support and programs. But I got to tell you, and I'm nonpartisan, all right? I'm a bi-party criticizer. But, you know, the last administration, as part, I think it was the IRA or the Inflation Reduction Act, but $20 billion was set aside for energy, but it wasn't really energy. It was energy services and dealing with higher, higher temperatures and all that stuff. And it was going to 2 or 3 nonprofits that had just formed by people that were in the previous administration. Not only that, but the administration signed a contract with them. And in that, I'm not sure it's legal, but it said you can't cancel this contract. And that's when I said, and I would be highly assured personally that it happens the other way, both sides. And so I got to tell you, that gave me a substantial degree of skepticism that, you know what, the nonprofits, you can't hurt them because they're the ones that actually get everything done. Comments?
Yeah, one, thanks so much for raising that. I'm going to step out of my day job and just tell you my comments are personal. I really appreciate you raising that. I'm an advocate for nonprofits. It's what I do. I founded and I'm the CEO of one. I actually share a lot of concerns about how effectively we're spending money and how we award contracts. I can tell you, I think in the vast majority of cases, especially for things that you think of as more traditional social services, there's a tremendous amount of process in place. It's competitive, it's transparent for awarding things like whether it's mental health services or food services or housing. I think that when it gets to what is technically called discretionary funding, And you're right, it happens across lots of administrations of both parties. It happens, by the way, by governors and mayors and everybody else too. When you get to the place of discretionary spending, I think that that's where we may have more expectation, hopefully moving forward around like, what does that look like? How much specificity goes into that? I do just want to also comment on the idea of what's charitable, because I think that that is at the root of what a lot of the challenges and conversation are right now. Is climate change charitable? It's not spelled out in 501c3 status. It's not spelled out in federal taxes. And so I think there's this question that this country is going to grapple with that'll go to the courts about what actually constitutes charity. There is a defined set within, I think it's 1026 of the IRS code. There is a defined set of things that include. We have been widening that in this country for decades. And we've been putting more and more money towards things that were not traditional. Ultimately, we're going to go back to the thing that I do think, and polling shows there is wide agreement. We want kids to have food. Almost all of us agree on that, right? Is there's going to have to be some sort of like focusing in and limitation of what constitutes charitable for the purpose of tax exemptions and federal grants and things like that. So I know I'm at time. I really just, again, want to say thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, especially in a room like this with so many other people who care about our community. Thanks.
I'm putting you on the spot, but there was a few more questions. Do you have time to stay after for those who want to?
Yeah, for better or worse, I talk about this all day.
That was unbelievable. Wait, I'm not done with you. Miles, seriously, that was very insightful, and thank you for bringing that awareness. We have made a donation to the Just One project in your name to help combat hunger issues in our community. And then, I get to keep this one. And then this is our 100-year anniversary coffee table history book. We'd love you to display that somewhere in your office.
I will proudly.
And Tina's gonna, and thank you for staying around for those who have questions. Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay, real quick, thank you. Congratulations to past President Russ Swain for being featured in our member spotlight. You're amazing, really, you are super amazing. And then to close our meeting, at the Las Vegas Rotary Club, we proudly contribute and take a stance to developing a stronger future by investing in our elementary school partners, funding meaningful organizations that share our mission, and raise awareness of our positive impact throughout the community. Reminder, we have a board meeting right after, and the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.